God, I love when a character from an old storyline makes a reappearance.
That's it. That's my intro.
Hi, I'm Amanda. You're watching Swell Entertainment. And today we are revisiting an old topic on this channel. You follow me on Instagram, you may have seen that I bring this character up every time I'm in New York City, okay? And that is 432 Park Avenue, the giant pencil Uggo building on Billionaire's Row in New York City. And I previously have talked about this. God, what year was this? 2021, all right? And it's called TikTok Made Me Hate a Building. Locked in, baby. God, I look like a baby in these. Wow, I didn't even use lighting in the old building. I just sat at my desk with the sunlight. Called that a day. That's so funny. God, do y'all watch this? No, I'm kidding. But really quick, let me tell you about the sponsor for today's video, Squarespace. End of the year, and I'm sure a lot of you are finally making an effort on starting those businesses that you have been putting off all year long. So whether you're starting up a blog about how much you hate the holidays, or you want a place to sell your kids' handmade hand turkey art, Squarespace is the all-in-one website design platform to help you stand out and succeed online. Ton of website design templates to choose from if you don't know where to start, but with cutting edge design, you also can customize it to fit your needs. They have intuitive built-in analytics tools so you can track traffic and figure out where to focus engagement. And they have a ton of tools to help you set up your shop to sell physical items, digital items, or even video courses. Go to squarespace.com to get started on a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Swell Entertainment to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. This video that I made in 2021 was mainly about this New York Times article where people inside the building were talking about a lot of the issues within the building and how the building was an eyesore to the New York skyline, how tall the building was. It wanted to be the tallest building in New York. It was for a fraction of a moment, and then it was, beaten very quickly. It sways in the wind. It's alarming. When you use the trash chutes from like the top floors, it sounds like a bomb going off when it hits the bottom because of the speed of which it goes down. Someone got entrapped in an elevator. The word entrapped was very important in that. And so we talked about that because people were on TikTok were talking about it, how ugly it was and how much they hated it and how it was like this rich person's building that was like an actively hostile experience to live in, okay? Fun fact, this video, it's at over 500,000 views. A journalist actually reached out to me to do an interview about this. It was like, yeah, sure, like let's talk about it. And then that interview ended up getting scrapped. My dad suspected it was scrapped because they advertised the apartments in the magazine that was interviewing me. I don't think it's that, because the interview was like weird. The interview was trying to spin it and trying to get me to say that like the reason people wanted to talk about this building was because they secretly all hate New Yorkers. And I was like, I don't hate New Yorkers. I think people are talking about this because everyone deserves safe housing, even rich people, and it's actively unsafe to live there, it seems. It was a very short interview. And it never went anywhere. So I always thought that was funny. We talked a lot about this article then, and whenever I'm driving into the city, I see it. If I'm in Central Park, I see it. Like there's always, it pops up every time I'm in New York because it's always there. Everyone needs a nemesis in their life. And I've just decided it's that building in particular. A big part of this video in 2021 was that there was a video that was made that was like a short film to advertise the apartments to potential owners of 432 Park Avenue condominiums, okay? And it featured like King Kong, Spider-Man, silent film stars, Charlie Chaplin. Like it was like a $6 million budget short film to advertise the units of this apartment. And it was like lost media at the time. And so I was like, I'm going to pay $75 or whatever it was to whoever found it. And one of my viewers did find it. It was a viewer from Australia. And he was like, just donate it, please. And I was like, okay, cool. Give it out. And then recently someone emailed me asking for it. It's like, I have been told that you might have access to this. Actually, a ChatGPT search told me. I don't like the ChatGPT. One knows that. Two, Google it. They released the footage like within a year or so of this. They just put the film out. It's probably on YouTube. Just ask Google, do research. ChatGPT, are you serious? So I know he doesn't watch my stuff. I didn't reply because I was going to be mean.
Sure enough, one Google search did help me find it on YouTube very quickly. I don't want to use footage from it here because I don't want them copyright claiming me or anything like that. But I did check the comment sections of that video of the re-upload, and sure enough, this is what I found.
It brought back into my consciousness recently because I haven't been to New York since June. Then We got a new article. Now, this is from the New York Times again, published on October 19th. It's the 22nd as I'm recording this, by Dion Searcy, Stefanos Chen, and Urvashi Ubero. And it's titled, "A Tower on Billionaire's Row is Full of Cracks. Who's to Blame?" A superstar team of architects and developers insisted on an all-white concrete facade. It could explain some of the building's problems. So this building has so many issues. It has always had issues. As I'm recording this as well, when you search it up, 432 Park Avenue, you have other articles now that have come out of this one. We've got one, Billionaire's Row skyscraper where J-Lo and A-Rod lived is covered in cracks. Facing a structural crisis, experts fear notorious Billionaire's Row monolith could rain chunks of concrete on NYC if cracks not addressed. This building is apparently on the verge of crumbling onto the streets of New York City. Because of course, that makes sense. With its striking white concrete facade amid a sea of glass skyscrapers, the super tall tower of 432 Park Avenue was designed to be the jewel of New York City's Billionaire's Row, the stretch of luxury condos in Manhattan that has attracted the world's wealthiest home buyers. But only a few years after the 102-floor apartment tower near 57th Street was completed, water began seeping through some ceilings. The elevators broke down repeatedly, and owners complained that their living rooms creaked and swayed in the whipping midtown wind. Horrifying. Awful. Bad. Now what initially seemed to be nuisances for a small group of ultra-rich people appear to have masked much deeper problems. The exterior of the building, which opened in 2015, is pockmarked and gouged, riddled with hundreds of cracks that suggest the slender structure is being overtaxed by wind and rain, according to independent engineering experts, construction reports, and court filings. If the problems are not addressed, probably with a 9-figure renovation... The phrase 9 figures. The building could eventually become uninhabitable or endanger pedestrians below, the engineers said. Inspectors have said the building is safe for the residents inside and for passersby. Yet recent reports filed with the city have shown chunks of missing concrete on some of its highest floors, and new cracks are appearing in its load-bearing facade. Now, we talked about a lot of issues with the construction of the building, like I mentioned, the swaying and the elevators and the bomb-like trash chute, among other issues, and some issues people were having with selling the apartments and things like that once they decided to leave. I don't think anything at the time came up about the actual potential structural issues of the construction itself. They talked about the structural issues of the swaying and the fact that there are wind pockets between them that would help with the swaying so that it wasn't just the wind goes through, This is the easiest way for me to explain this to you. If you look at it, there's holes through the sides so the wind can pass through. I don't think there was talks of chunks falling down or anything like that, as far as I can remember. Yet recent reports filed with the city have shown chunks of missing concrete on some of its highest floors, and new cracks are appearing in its load-bearing facade. Chunks of concrete missing is crazy. Because where are they? Are they in the wind? How big are these chunks? Chunks is not good enough, actually. I'm gonna need a size, because a chunk this big, bad, especially at that height. A chunk this big, also bad, but different bad. Less concerning. Still a projectile, okay? But this is that's a melon. I don't want that missing from a building. But crumbling bits, don't like that either, especially in the wind. Okay, but how big are these chunks? Amid a tangle of litigation involving the developers, engineers, residents, and a small army of contractors, a likely explanation for some of the building's issues is emerging. Its lauded all-white concrete facade insisted on by its superstar team of architects and developers. More than a decade after the city's skyline was reshaped in a race to build the tallest trophy home, the tower at 432 Park could represent the limits of new skyscraper technology and the frothy condo market that encouraged it. Concrete typically gets its gray tint from iron oxides and cement. Altering the components can affect its strength, color, and performance. Builders of 432 Park were presented with major challenge: how to come up with a concrete mixture that met their exacting aesthetic. Companies involved in the job called it one of the most difficult concrete projects ever executed. The tower at 432 Park Avenue was set to become the tallest residential building in the world and one of the slimmest. Its slenderness ratio is 15:1. By comparison, the Empire State Building has a ratio of 3:1 because it has a much wider base. Mr. Macklow, who was responsible for avant-garde projects such as the Glass Cube Apple Store on Fifth Avenue, wanted something that would distinguish it from nearby glassy towers topped with swoops and flourishes. But its success has been marred by infighting among its wealthy residents who cannot agree on how to solve the building's growing list of problems without hurting property values. The condo board at 432 Park has filed 2 separate suits accusing the building's team of developers of selling them defective units and of fraudulently covering up the issues. God, it looks crazy from the ground. That is the one thing I haven't done, is like gone over there and walked by it and like looked up at this insane building. God, here's photos of the cracking. Photos from facade inspections of 432 Park submitted to the department buildings. One labeled spalled concrete is from the 7th floor. 7th floor? Okay, so the first photo, which is from 2024, last year, almost a year ago. That looks to be like one of the openings in it, unless the openings start higher than that, don't they? The concrete honeycombing on the 59th floor in November of 2024, okay, same year. And then spalled concrete on the 50th floor in January 2022. Surface voids on the 5th floor. Okay, so this is the... A 10-year-old building should not be showing the level of deterioration, said Mr. Torero, who has studied construction defects in skyscrapers across the world and reviewed materials related to 432 Park at the Times request. Nobody can argue that is not a failure. The building is being stressed beyond what was intended, said Steve Bongiorno, a structural engineer in New York who was consulted on an early bid for the design of the building and has continued to closely track its issues. Mood. I think I would do the same. Like you... I was consulted and now I'm just continuing to check in on your issues. I mean, I basically just do that, just not with buildings. The tower was building where everything, its exterior, its height, and its slenderness was pushed to the limit. Jose Torero, head of the Department of Civil, Environmental, and Geomatic Engineering at University College London, said, "Hold the poor." On a misty December afternoon in 2012, more than a dozen luminaries from the world of architecture, engineering, and development walked through a concrete yard in Gowanus, Brooklyn. It was 4 years before 432 Park Avenue would be completed, and its team was gathering to review the concrete mix that would soon form the tower's signature facade. Already, there were concerns. Cracks are apparent immediately, an architect with the Vinoli firm said about the columns. It is imperative that the concrete consultant review those conditions and advise. Concrete experts like to say they don't work with concrete, they work for concrete. Fuck yeah, concrete. Sorry, I had to get one out. So stupid. I'm so sorry. Made up of a blend of cement, water, sand, and gravel, concrete is notoriously finicky. Its performance and look depend on outside temperatures and humidity as it is mixed, poured, and dried. Some additives can bolster its durability but may darken the color. But 432 Park was supposed to be white. The group assembled in Gowanus was responsible for developing a concrete mix that was strong enough to support the weight of nearly 1,400-foot tower and white enough to satisfy the aesthetic the design team desired. Why white? Like, I get aesthetics, but why would a darker gray, a charcoal? Because it was gonna mess up the skyline regardless. Even in this mock-up they have here, even just looking at this model with all the white buildings and then 432 Park, it's such an eyesore. It's crazy. They are going down a dangerous and slippery path that I believe will eventually lead to failure and lawsuits to come. Jim Herr, then a director at Mr. Vinoli's firm, wrote in a July 2012 email to other architects on the project. It and many other emails are now part of the lawsuit filed by the building's condo board. What the team saw on the visit over 2 December days validated these concerns. Small cavities known as bug holes, more than 1 inch across and large enough to allow water infiltration, had emerged in the column mock-ups. In the mock-ups, trouble and cracks had developed in several spots. Engineers sent photos of the defects to others tied to the project in hopes of finding solutions, according to emails from the suit. One recipient was Sylvian Marcus, a structural engineer at WSP, who had worked on the rippling facade of Frank Gehry's 8 Spruce Street in Lower Manhattan, and was enlisted as part of the team for 432 Park. Concerned with the cracks in the model columns, Mr. Marcus recommended adding fly ash to the mix, a byproduct of coal combustion often used to make concrete more durable. Sounds good to me. Let me guess, it would mess with the color. They will not accept fly ash. Color is too dark, replied Hezi Mena, an engineer who was then a senior associate at WSP in a December 2012 email. There were two options, Mr. Market replied, color or cracks. See, this is where it seems so logical to me. I think there's something here that the aesthetics part of things people are ignoring. And that's that people are going to be living here. Like, you would think that, like, as a concept, okay, that, like, that would be at the forefront of everyone's mind. Like, this is going to people's homes. We want people to live here and find their homes here, make a life here. Instead, we're focusing on the aesthetics, because now it's not even just like the people that live in the building. It's also the people having to pass by the building, who live nearby the building. Civilians that have nothing to do with the building that are now going to be at risk potentially because you didn't want the color to be a little darker. You know what I'm saying? Like this thing is becoming a health hazard, not just for the people that live there, but for people nearby it. In a city like New York, where they get all the seasons, all of them. So within 10 years, we're already seeing issues. Hold the poor until they have a valid mix, Mr. Marcus wrote to Mr. Manna and developers. Otherwise, we will have future problems very painful to be solved and substantial project delays. 2 months later, construction on the site in Midtown was underway, according to memos that went out to developers, engineers, architects, and construction managers. But cracks, honeycomb-like patterns, and small holes were emerging on the facade, spoiling the aesthetic and prompting concerns about moisture infiltration that could lead to further cracking and deterioration. Oh, that's right. I forgot that Mr. Vanoli made the Death Ray building. Totally forgot about that. His crescent-shaped Vadra Hotel in Las Vegas has been nicknamed the Death Ray after complaints that its glassy surface magnified sun rays, singeing hair off poolside guests and melting plastic. I forgot about that. They go on to talk about more complaints. There are no structural concerns. These are all hairline cracks, which were expected to occur, wrote Mr. LaCroix in January 2016 email to a building supervisor, so no surprises. Next segment is just titled, Chunks of Concrete Will Fall. This article will be linked down below if you would like to see it for yourself. They go on here to talk about more of the issues that we covered in the previous video. Creaking noises kept some residents awake at night, and burst pipes caused millions of dollars in damage, according to private emails and court documents. The building's problematic elevators in one case trapped the son of a condo board member for nearly 90 minutes. Entrapped. Awful. A lawyer for the board said an empty carriage plummeted 40 stories and crashed into a service floor beneath it. An electrical mishap the week before Thanksgiving in 2019 knocked out power, leading residents to seek refuge at the Four Seasons Hotel. The swaying in one apartment was so bad that an engineering firm was hired to steady the unit. Basically, a lot of the issues with the swaying of the building as well comes down to the fact that the building is rectangular and there's not a lot of aerodynamics to it, which is why they have to have those pockets for the wind and the like. That's not enough. It sways a lot more because it is tiny and skinny and tall. But the rapid appearance of cracks, the emergence of new ones, and past breakdowns in the counterweight system all point to the building facing unexpected stress from wind, said Scott Chen, a forensic engineer. Forensic engineer sounds like a sick job. That sounds so cool. In Melbourne, Australia, who studied the building. Cracks in the facade increase the risk of water seeping into the structure, which could cause the steel rebar to rust and expand, producing even more cracks. The cycle of degradation affects what experts call the building's stiffness, or its ability to respond to wind. More cracking could exacerbate existing problems with mechanical systems, they said, and make the building increasingly vulnerable. It sounds like it's a ticking Jenga tower is what it sounds like. In this cycle of stress continues, the consequences could be huge, according to engineering experts. Chunks of concrete will fall off and windows will start loosening up. Oh God, I'm sorry. Like there's a level of stress that this article is giving to me. I'm sorry. I've never been inside this building. I'm not even afraid of heights. You know when you've been like in a super tall building and you're like, wow, what if this winding broke or wasn't secure? It sounds like that's what could be coming because of the structural issues that are already happening. You can't take the elevators, mechanical systems start to fail, pipe joints start to break, and you get water leaks all over the place. The building just becomes uninhabitable, he said, noting that the tower has yet to experience sustained hurricane force winds. Concrete hand grenades is the next section. Again, I don't want to read this whole article to y'all. There's more photos here of patchwork that they've done. Photos from remedial repairs submitted to the Department of Buildings, repairs on the corner of the roof in August 2024. Repairs to the 85th floor, photographed in September 2024. Still, worsening cracks could lead to greater risk for pedestrians, said Mr. Bongiorno, who was not involved in the tower lawsuits. There's no sidewalk shed that's going to protect you from chunks of concrete popping off a 1,400-foot building, he said. Anthony Ingraffia, an expert in concrete fractures and a Cornell University engineering professor emeritus, who reviewed photos from the inspections of 432 Park, described some of the defects as cosmetic for now, but said others have potential to peel off the building and become concrete hand grenades, in quotations. I would not sign off as a licensed engineer in the state of New York that this building will last forever, Mr. Ingraffia said. I would sign a document that says the Empire State Building will last. This building, I doubt it. It's crazy because I feel like that's so common now, especially we've been talking about this, I feel like, in a lot of other segments on this channel, talking about products and things like that and how things are not being made to last because there's this forced obsolescence now, often because of capitalism. Because if you make something that's super durable and long lasting, then you buy it once and it's done. We have iPhones where this is a 15, the 7, I need to watch this phone case, but like this is a 15 Pro Max. The 17 is out now. This thing has been glitching like crazy. Like, not saying that anything's going to happen, but I think that a throttle might be coming if it's not already affecting my phone. If they announce an 18, this thing, though I take good care of it, will probably just start functioning at a glacial pace at some point. There's the forced obsolescence to try and get you to buy the next one. The same thing, unfortunately, is going with buildings, where we're seeing this homogenous building style, the super like boxy style, millennial gray aesthetic, the gentrified aesthetic. I don't want to say like the trendification of buildings, because I do think that there's always been buildings that are designed for style and things like that that just don't last long term. And then I guess you could argue like, yeah, they're thinking about the style of 432 Park and all of that. However, there are buildings that are designed stylized that still last a very long time. And the durability of something is often also historically brought into the discussion, because like I said, a lot of these things are buildings that are meant to be used for a long time. Like the concept of, I feel like a lot of architects, they believe in the concept of, something outlasting them, like building things that outlast them, not just things that are like cool and trendy to sell right now, but maybe that's me being idealistic about architects. I don't know. The concept though of like, yeah, the aesthetic is the important part, not the durability. And like there are things like codes have changed over the years. There's plenty of buildings here in California, in Los Angeles, that are historic buildings that aren't up to earthquake codes. And so they actively can't be open right now to the public because it's a historical building. It's going to take time and money to make it up to code while also preserving the architecture and preserving the historic elements of the buildings. But there are things that were just built better and built long term, and then now it's like, okay, how much money can we save while making this as quickly as possible, as big as possible, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like cutting corners of, I agree, that's alarming. The concept of cutting corners when things were being questioned for concrete from the jump. There had to have been a way to discuss changing the color of like the fact that it's like, no, it's going to be white, and it's like, okay, but people are going to live here. Like this is people are going to pass by this thing. Forget even how it looks. The durability and the sustainability of this building long term and the effects that it's going to have. You can't just keep patchworking something constantly like a building. That's crazy, especially when it becomes a potential active health hazard potentially. I don't know. It just feels like so many things are built. Like we all know about the landlord special and things like that. I live in a building that is, owned by a management company that is fairly national, and there's a few elements of this apartment that is very clearly landlord special, and I love my apartment, okay, but there's a lot of landlord special things that I'm always curious about, for the longevity of this thing, but I'm not spending multi-millions of dollars on this apartment. I don't even spend $1 million in a year on this apartment, because that's absurd. I think I talked about the concept of like spending more means something is better. And sometimes spending more just means something looks better or something has a luxury like name associated with it or price tag or things like that. We've been seeing this a lot if you follow any of like the fashion TikTokers. There was this whole thing recently with Wisdom K with Miu Miu where he bought a vest and the buttons of the thing that he had bought immediately popped off. Miu Miu then sent him another one. He took his initial video down. It was like, okay, they sent me a replacement. The buttons popped off again. I feel like like that's the enshittification of things. I'm not saying that Miu Miu is enshittifying things or anything like that, but I'm just saying in its concept, I feel like the enshittification of things has gotten worse across all platforms, all factors of life, all factors of our day-to-day lives. Look at our government. It's just crazy when you think about it, because this is a building, you know, people live in it, but no, we can't make the concrete sturdier because it's going to mess with the color. I think that's one of those meetings where I would just have to be like, are you stupid? Like I would just come out, because sometimes it needs to. This is one of those instances that's crazy. Again, I'll link this article down below. It's fascinating. Structural issues at this scale of a building this size, I think in and of itself is alarming. That's crazy as a concept. Why? How did we get to this point? Because of the color? The color? Like, it's just so absurd. Like, yeah, sorry, we might turn our building into an active health hazard for the streets of New York and pedestrians passing by and people living in the apartments of our building. But in our defense, the white looks sick as hell. You know, like, it's so goofy. If it wasn't so concerning. I'm sure there's more stuff with 432 Park Avenue. I'm sure there's more. There's always going to be something. Every concrete image that I'm looking at, these do look like they'd be on buildings that are older. Again, I'm not an expert at all, but it just seems like a lot. So I'll link these down below, but that's really going to be it. What are your thoughts on 432 Park Avenue? Is there a building that you hate? Do you have a nemesis in your life that is also an inanimate building that rich people live in? Let me know. Comment down below. Reminder, I stream on Twitch. My Swell Entertainment is now available on Spotify. Reminder to check out Girly Pop Go if you'd like to see more car and motorsport content. Shout out to my channel members. If you'd also like to join my channel membership, so you can go and click join down below. If you'd like to follow me on all social media, that'll be all up here, and that's going to have a lovely day. Goodbye. Saying specifically no to fly ash because it would darken the color of the concrete, when that would specifically make it more durable, is crazy. There are being cracks in the tests. Concerns being raised in the testing. And yet, still going through with it. Fascinating. Fascinating, fascinating, fascinating.